Have you ever noticed that the harder you hold on to something, the heavier it feels? Imagine gripping a rope so tightly that your hands start to burn. At first, you think the pain is proof that you're in control. But in reality, the tighter you squeeze, the more it hurts and the more trapped you become. Now, here's the paradox. What if true freedom doesn't come from holding on, but from letting go? This sounds almost shocking, doesn't it? Because in our culture, we're taught to chase more success, more possessions, more security, more validation. We've been told that if we just hold on tighter, work harder, accumulate enough, then one day we'll finally feel safe, complete, free. And yet, how often does that story really deliver peace? If anything, it leaves us exhausted, restless at night, unable to breathe fully, weighed down by invisible burdens. The Buddha offered a radically different perspective. He said freedom is not about adding more layers to our life, it's about loosening the grip. Letting go is not weakness, it is not resignation. It is the quiet, courageous choice to no longer let our fears and attachments dictate every move. It is the art of living with open hands instead of clenched fists. Think about this. What if letting go didn't mean losing control, but finally releasing the illusion of control? Imagine how your relationships might feel if you stopped trying to force people into your script. Imagine how your nights might change if you laid your head down without replaying regrets or rehearsing tomorrow's worries. Imagine waking up lighter because your worth is no longer chained to outcomes. And yet, I know, letting go is one of the hardest things we can do. We cling to memories, identities, even pain, because at least they feel familiar. We tell ourselves, if I let this go, what will be left of me? But what if the very space that opens when you release is where your truest self finally appears? That's what this journey is about. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk together through the Buddhist teachings on letting go, not as distant philosophy, but as living guidance for our everyday struggles. You'll discover why impermanence is not something to fear, but a door to freedom. You'll see how loosening the grip on expectations can bring more peace than forcing life to follow your plan. And you'll learn gentle practices you can begin today to feel lighter, calmer, and more awake in your own skin. So I invite you to stay with me until the very end, because there's a gift waiting for you there. A gift that might just be the reminder you've been needing. That freedom isn't far away. It's already in your hands. If only you choose to release. And here's the question I want you to hold as we begin. If freedom doesn't come from holding on, but from letting go, what is it right now that you're still clinging to? Because to truly understand the art of letting go, we first need to see the nature of the things we're holding. And that's exactly where we're headed next. 1. Impermanence. Accepting change to ease fear. Let me ask you something personal. Do you remember the last time you wished things could just stay the same? Maybe it was a relationship you didn't want to lose. Maybe it was a job that gave you security. Or maybe it was simply a moment laughing with friends, holding your child, or sitting in a peaceful morning that you wanted to last forever, and then, like sand slipping through your fingers, it changed. It ended. Here's the truth we rarely want to face. Everything changes. The seasons shift. Our bodies age. Feelings rise and fall like waves. Friendships transform. Jobs disappear. Even the very cells in our body are constantly renewing. This is the universal law of impermanence. Yet, even though we know this, our hearts resist. We fight reality as if we could freeze time, and that resistance more than the change itself is what creates suffering. Think about it. A person doesn't suffer simply because a flower fades. They suffer because they demand the flower should last forever. The Buddha taught that clinging to permanence in a world of impermanence is like trying to hold water in your fist. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. And what are you left with? Tired hands and emptiness. Let me share a story. A close friend of mine lost his job unexpectedly after years of loyalty. He was devastated, not just because of the paycheck, but because his identity was tied to that role. "If I'm not this," he said, "then who am I?" For weeks he resisted the reality, replaying the past, wishing the company hadn't changed. And every day he resisted. His suffering grew heavier. But once he began to accept that change had already happened, something shifted. He found new opportunities, new parts of himself, new freedom. His pain didn't vanish overnight, but it transformed when he stopped fighting impermanence. I'll be honest, I've resisted change too. I've clung to people who were already walking away, replayed moments that had already passed. And every time, I realized that my suffering was not in the leaving itself. It was in my refusal to accept that life was moving forward. Maybe you've felt that too. Here's the invitation. Instead of resisting change, what if we softened into it? Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" What if we asked, "What is life trying to show me through this change?" That shift in perspective can turn fear into wisdom. And here's a gentle practice you can try right now. Take a piece of paper and write down 3 things in your life that are currently changing. It could be your health, your career, your relationships, even your own emotions. Then, next to them, write one expectation you're willing to loosen. Just one. Maybe it's letting go of the belief that your partner should never change. Maybe it's the idea that your career must look the same forever. Or maybe it's simply the expectation that your mood should always be happy. Just notice what it feels like to release that grip, even a little. I'd love for you to try this and share in the comments. If you feel comfortable, just type the letter C if you're ready to make peace with change. It's a small way of saying, I see it, I accept it, I'm learning to let go. Because here's the deeper question we need to face. If everything changes, then what exactly is it that we're clinging to when we suffer? Is it the object itself, or is it the story we've told ourselves about it? And that, my friend, is where our journey leads next. 2. Non-self. You are not your thoughts or labels. Let me ask you a curious question. Who are you, really? Most of us answer with labels. I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a manager, or we point to our emotions. I'm anxious, I'm happy, I'm depressed. But here's the paradox. Are those labels truly you, or are they just temporary costumes your mind is wearing? The Buddha taught something radical. The self we cling to so tightly is not a fixed, solid block. It's more like a flowing river. Every moment, thoughts appear and disappear. Emotions rise and dissolve. Even the cells in your body change. So, if everything is shifting, how could you ever be just one permanent identity? Think about it this way. If you're watching clouds in the sky, you don't call one cloud the sky. You understand it's just passing through. In the same way, a thought of fear or a wave of anger, or even a story about who you think you are, it's just a cloud in the vast sky of your being. It doesn't define the whole of you. I remember speaking with a woman who struggled with anxiety. She used to say, "I am anxious," as if anxiety was her entire identity. But when she learned a simple Buddhist technique, soft labeling, it changed her relationship with fear. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," she began to gently say, "There is anxiety in me." Do you feel the difference? One statement chains you to the feeling, the other allows space. It's like stepping back and watching a wave instead of drowning in it. And this is something you can try too. Next time you're caught in a thought or emotion, pause for just a breath. Instead of, "I am angry," say softly, "There is anger in me." Instead of, I am sad. Try, sadness is visiting right now. It sounds simple, but this tiny shift is powerful. It reminds you, you are not your passing thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the awareness holding them. When I first practiced this, I was surprised by how much lighter I felt. Suddenly, I didn't have to fix or fight every feeling. I could let them pass, the same way clouds drift across the sky. And when I stopped clinging to every label good or bad, I discovered a freedom I didn't know I was missing. So I wonder, how would your life change if you stopped over-identifying with every thought? What burdens might lift if you remembered that who you truly are is not a single label, but the vast flowing river behind them all? If this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments, you can simply type the letter S as a way of saying, I'm learning to see myself as spacious. Sometimes, even a single letter can be a powerful reminder. Because here's the deeper question we need to face. If I is not solid, if thoughts and emotions are just passing guests, then what exactly is it that makes us cling so tightly and suffer so deeply? That's the doorway we're about to step through next. 3. Attachment upadana, the mechanism of suffering and how to see through it. Have you ever noticed that tighter you hold on to something, the more afraid you become of losing it? It's strange, isn't it? The very act of clinging, which we think will bring security, actually creates more fear. This is what the Buddha called upadana attachment. The cycle is simple but relentless. Craving leads to grasping, grasping leads to fear, and fear leads to suffering. Think about it. You crave success, so you cling to your job title. Suddenly, the thought of losing it keeps you awake at night. You crave love, so you hold on too tightly to a relationship. Then jealousy and insecurity begin to poison what was once sweet. You crave control, so you try to manage every little detail, only to feel crushed when life doesn't follow your script. I've seen this pattern in my own life. For years, I was attached to an image of myself, someone who had it all together, calm, wise, unshaken. But whenever I slipped, whenever I showed my flaws, I felt shame. Why? Because I was clinging to an identity. I wasn't just living, I was gripping. And that grip was painful. So let me ask you something uncomfortable. If you were to lose that thing you cling to most, whether it's a role, a relationship, or even an opinion of yourself, what would you truly lose inside? Would it really be your worth? Or is it just the story you've been holding on to? Take a minute with me now. Grab a piece of paper if you can. Write down 3 attachments you notice in your life. It could be outcomes you're desperate for, the way you want others to see you, or the illusion of control. Just 3. And then, next to each one, ask yourself quietly, if I let this go, what am I afraid of losing within myself? Don't judge your answers. Just notice. When I did this practice, I realized something surprising. Most of my fear wasn't about the outside world at all. It was about an inner story. If I fail, I'm not enough. If they leave, I'm unlovable. If I'm not in control, I'm unsafe. The suffering wasn't in the world. It was in the grip of my own mind. And maybe you'll see this too. The problem isn't that we love or care. The problem is the tightening, the desperate holding. Because the tighter the grip, the less room there is for peace. So I wonder what might happen if you loosened just one finger from that grip today. Not letting go completely, but softening. Could your shoulders drop a little? Could your breath move easier? Could you discover that life still holds you, even when you're not holding it so tightly? If this sparks something in you, I'd love to know. In the comments, just type the number 3, a simple reminder that you've named your 3 attachments, and you're beginning to see them more clearly. Sometimes sharing that one number is already a brave step. Because here's the truth. We can't just stop clinging by force. The hand only opens when it finds something steadier to rest on. Which leads us to the next part of this journey. If we want to loosen our grip, what inner anchor can we lean into? 4. Mindful breathing. Anapanasati, the anchor for letting go. Sometimes, when life feels overwhelming, all we want is something steady to hold on to, a place inside that doesn't shake, no matter what's happening around us. The good news is that anchor is already here, and it's closer than you think. It's your breath. Now, I know you've heard about mindful breathing before. It sounds simple, almost too simple. But have you ever noticed how rarely we are actually with our breath? Most of the time, we're lost in thoughts, chasing the past, or worrying about what's next. The breath is happening, but we're not really home for it. Here's the thing. When we're caught in attachment, the mind races. It grabs, it resists, it tightens. But the breath is always honest. It rises and falls like the tide, without forcing, without clinging. When we lean into it, even for a few moments, something inside us begins to soften. Let's try it together right now. Wherever you are, just pause. Take one deep, gentle breath in. Notice the air entering, filling, expanding, and then let it go. Feel the release as you breathe out. Do it again, inhale, and this time, as you exhale, let your shoulders drop just a little. One more breath. In, out, and now, allow a small smile, even if it feels subtle. Just enough to remind yourself, I'm here, I'm alive, this moment is enough. 3 conscious breaths, that's it. But did you feel how your body shifted, even slightly? The mind, for a moment, stopped chasing. You found a place to rest. Now, one important reminder, mindfulness of breathing is not about controlling the breath. It's not about making it longer, deeper, better. It's simply about seeing it, receiving it, and letting it be. The practice is threefold. Notice, acknowledge, release. Notice the breath as it is. Acknowledge whatever feelings or thoughts are passing through, and release the urge to fix or fight. That's where the healing happens. I remember once, during a very stressful season in my life, I would sit at my desk and feel like I was drowning in responsibilities. My chest tight, my jaw locked. Then I remembered something my teacher said, return to the breath, not to escape life, but to meet life. I tried 3 breaths, just like we did now. It didn't solve my problems, but it gave me a tiny gap between me and the storm, and in that gap, I found clarity. So, here's a little invitation for you. Next time you feel your mind spiraling or your hands clenching, just pause for 3 breaths. No fixing, no pushing, just 3 breaths to come home to yourself. And if you've tried this with me just now, I'd love for you to let me know in the comments. Just type the letter B as a gentle reminder of breath. That way, I'll know you've given yourself this moment of presence, and maybe it'll encourage someone else to try too. Because here's the beauty of it. Once you have this anchor, letting go becomes less scary. You realize you're not just free-falling into emptiness. You're resting into something real, something alive, something that's always here to hold you. And that leads us to the next step of our journey. Once we've found this anchor in the breath, how do we learn to release? Not randomly, not everywhere, but in the right place at the right time. 5. Letting go of expectations. Holding intention. Do your best. Release the outcome. Have you ever worked so hard for something only to feel crushed when it didn't turn out the way you imagined? Maybe it was a project at work, a relationship you gave your heart to, or even a plan for your own health. You poured in your energy, your time, your hope, and then life had a different script. That sting, that disappointment, it's something we all know. And here's where a powerful distinction can change everything. Intention is not the same as expectation. Intention is your inner compass. It's the direction you choose, the energy you give, the seed you plant. Expectation, on the other hand, is the rigid script of the ego. It demands that life unfold exactly the way we want, on our schedule, by our rules. And when it doesn't, suffering arrives. Think of it this way. Intention says, I will walk toward health with kindness and consistency. Expectation says, I must lose exactly 10 pounds in 2 weeks, or I've failed. Intention whispers, I will give my love fully with presence. Expectation insists, this person must love me back in the way I imagine, or it's worthless. Do you feel the difference? One is alive, flexible. The other is a prison. I like to keep a simple mantra close to my heart. Clear action, open result. It reminds me that my responsibility is to act with clarity, integrity, and heart. But the outcome belongs to a bigger flow than just me. Life is not a machine where you insert effort and receive guaranteed output. Life is more like a dance. You bring your steps, your rhythm, but you also listen to the music that's playing. Let me share a quick story. A close friend of mine once trained for months for a marathon. Every detail was planned. Diet, sleep, pace. Race day came, and halfway through, she felt a sharp pain in her knee. She couldn't finish. At first, she was devastated. All those months of preparation, gone. But then, something shifted. She realized the true gift wasn't crossing the finish line. It was discovering her strength, her discipline, her ability to commit. That intention shaped her, even though the outcome looked different. So let's bring this closer to you. Where in your life are you mixing up intention with expectation? Maybe at work, pushing for that promotion, and feeling like you're only worthy if you get it. Maybe in relationships, waiting for someone to behave exactly the way you've pictured. Or maybe with your health, setting goals so rigid that one slip feels like total failure. Here's a little practice. Think of one area right now where you're holding tightly to an outcome. Ask yourself, what if I replaced expectation with intention? What if instead of saying, this must happen, you said, this is the energy I will bring, and I will let life show me the form. If this resonates with you, drop the number 5 in the comments. That way, I'll know you're exploring this shift, letting go of the prison of expectation, and stepping into the freedom of intention. Because here's the truth. When we let go of expectations, we don't lose power, we actually gain it. Our energy is no longer wasted on fighting what we can't control. Instead, it flows into what we can, the clarity of our actions, the purity of our heart. And strangely enough, when we loosen our grip, life often surprises us with something richer, deeper, more fitting than what we originally demanded. But here's the challenge. Even when we understand this, emotions still rise like waves. Anger, fear, sadness, they come uninvited. So the real question is, when those waves surge, how do we keep from being pulled under? 6. Equanimity, upeka, standing in the storm without closing your heart. Have you ever found yourself in the middle of an emotional storm where everything around you feels chaotic, and inside, your heart is pounding, your mind is racing? It could be a heated argument, a sudden loss, or even just a wave of fear that rises without warning. In those moments, many of us do one of two things. We either get swept away, drowning in the wave, or we shut down, numbing ourselves so we won't feel the pain. But equanimity, what in Buddhism we call upeka, is something different. It's the art of balance, the ability to stand in the storm without closing your heart, not cold, not detached, but steady, alive, and clear. Here's the key. Equanimity doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't collapse into what you feel. Think of it like surfing. The wave is still there. Anger, grief, fear. You don't fight the wave. You don't pretend it's not there. But you also don't let it drag you under. Instead, you ride it with awareness. As the saying goes, the wave is the wave. I am the surfer. Now, how do we actually practice this in daily life? I like to use a simple two-step technique. Step 1. Pause. When you feel that heat rising in your chest, that knot in your stomach, take even a single breath to stop. That pause is like planting your feet on solid ground before the wave hits. Step 2. Zoom out. Widen your view. Instead of staring at the one tree that's burning, step back and see the whole forest. Instead of being locked inside your personal storm, remember this is one moment in a much larger sky. Let me share a story. A woman I once guided through meditation had a teenage son who was constantly challenging her, slamming doors, breaking rules, pushing every boundary. She told me, "I feel like I'm either exploding at him or shutting down completely." We practiced the pause and zoom out together. One evening, instead of yelling, she paused. She breathed. She remembered, this is one storm, not the whole ocean. Then she zoomed out, saw her son not as an enemy, but as a young man struggling to find himself. That moment didn't erase the conflict, but it transformed her response. She spoke with firmness, but without losing her tenderness. That's equanimity, firm and soft at the same time. So, I want to ask you, where in your life are you being tested by storms right now? Is it work pressure? A strained relationship? Or maybe it's the storm inside self-doubt, worry, regret. Take a moment to think. What would it look like if you paused and then zoomed out? If this speaks to you, type the letter E in the comments for equanimity. That one letter can be your reminder that even in the middle of chaos, you have the power to choose balance over breakdown. Here's the beauty of this practice. When you hold equanimity, your heart doesn't harden. In fact, it softens. Because balance is not about being untouched, it's about being unbroken. And when we're not broken, our compassion, our love, our clarity can flow freely, even in the toughest storms. And that leads us to the next step. Once we've found our balance, the question becomes, how do we keep our hearts soft enough to truly let go? 7. Loving kindness, softening the heart so the hands can let go. Have you noticed that sometimes the hardest part of letting go isn't the situation itself, but the way we hold on to it in our hearts? It's not the mistake you made, it's the self-blame that follows you for weeks. It's not only the hurtful words someone spoke, it's the resentment that lingers like a shadow. And here's where loving kindness, what Buddhists call metta, becomes so powerful. Loving kindness is not just about being nice. It's not about forcing a smile or pretending everything is okay. Loving kindness is the solvent. It melts the glue of clinging, of anger, of shame. It softens the heart so the hands can finally let go. Think of it like this. Imagine you're holding a rope tightly, pulling in a tug of war. Your hand is cramped, your arm is aching, but you don't let go because the ego says, I must win. Then something changes. You feel compassion. Not pity, compassion. Suddenly you realize, holding on is hurting you more than it's helping. In that moment of softness, your hand opens on its own. That's what metta does. Now, how do we practice this? There's a simple 30-second practice you can try anytime. You close your eyes, you breathe once, deeply, and you whisper either out loud or inside yourself, "May I be safe. May I be at peace. May I be free." Then, picture someone you love. and send it to them. May you be safe. May you be at peace. May you be free. And finally, if you're brave, extend it even to the person who hurt you, not because what they did was okay, but because you refuse to let their shadow live inside your chest. That's freedom. Let me share a story. A man I worked with once carried deep guilt after failing a business he started. He told me, "I ruined everything. My family, my reputation, myself." No matter how much he tried to move on, the guilt clung to him like a heavy coat. When he practiced this 30-second loving-kindness meditation, something shifted. At first, it felt fake, but slowly, those words, "May I be safe, may I be at peace, may I be free," began to pierce the armor of self-criticism. He wasn't excusing his mistakes. He was softening around them. And from that softness, change became possible. So I want to ask you, where in your life are you still holding that rope too tightly? Is it anger at someone you once trusted? Is it shame about a choice you made years ago? Or maybe, is it the quiet voice of self-criticism that won't let you rest? If this resonates with you, drop the number 7-inch the comments. Not just as a number, but as a reminder, softness is strength. Let 7 be your signal that today you choose compassion over self-punishment. Because here's the truth, without loving kindness, letting go is almost impossible. We can force ourselves to drop something, but if the heart is hard, the pain will simply reappear in another form. With loving kindness, the release comes naturally. The hand opens, the burden slips away, and the heart beats freely again. And that's the invitation. When we soften the heart, life itself begins to soften around us. And this brings us to the next step. How do we bring the practice of letting go into the ordinary moments of everyday life? Not just on the meditation cushion, but in the way we work, love, and breathe. 8. Practical applications of letting go. Let's bring this down from the clouds and into real life, because letting go isn't just a beautiful idea, it's a skill. And like any skill, it shows up in the ordinary places, at work, in love, in how we care for our bodies, even in the way we keep our homes. First, work. So many of us try to carry the impossible weight of controlling other people. The colleague who never delivers on time. The boss who never appreciates. The team member who always misunderstands. We think, if only they would change, my stress would disappear. But here's the paradox. The tighter we grip, the more powerless we feel. What if, instead, you shifted your focus to your circle of influence? Not what others should do, but what you can do. I once worked with a manager who was burning out trying to fix her team. When she stopped micromanaging and started modeling clarity and calm, something amazing happened. The team followed her energy. She let go of control and gained real influence. Then, love. In relationships, letting go doesn't mean walking away. It means loosening the demand that the other person must fit our script. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, if only he listened more, if only she were less stubborn, then I'd be happy? That's the ego bargaining. But real love grows when we set gentle boundaries instead of rigid expectations. It's like planting a tree. You don't pull on the branches to force it to grow faster. You give it water, light, space, and you let it grow in its own shape. Relationships flourish in that same softness. Now, health. So many of us carry the hidden burden of perfection. The perfect diet, the perfect body, the perfect morning routine. And when we fall short, guilt sneaks in. But here's a truth I've learned. It's not perfection that heals us. It's consistency. Letting go here means choosing good enough over impossible ideal. It means celebrating the walk you took instead of shaming yourself for not running 5 miles. It means 1 glass of water more today, not punishing yourself for yesterday's coffee. Small steps, done with kindness, carry more healing than perfection ever could. And finally, our physical space. Have you noticed how a cluttered room makes the mind restless? Every object holds a memory, a what if, or a someday. But when you release the excess, the air itself feels lighter. I once met a woman who said clearing her closet of clothes she hadn't worn in years was the first time she felt she could breathe in her own home. She laughed and said, "I thought I was decluttering my closet, but really I was decluttering my heart." Because the truth is, space outside creates space inside. So let me ask you, right now, which area calls to you most? Is it work, relationships, health, or your home? If one of these touched something inside you, write the letter W, L, H, or S in the comments. That's your way of saying, this is where I'm ready to practice letting go. Remember, letting go is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong art. Every day gives us a chance to practice in our conversations, in our habits, even in the way we hold a coffee mug or breathe in a morning breeze. And as we gather these small practices, we begin to see the bigger truth. Letting go is not losing. It's making space for life to flow through us instead of around us. Which brings us to the closing thread of this journey. Because if letting go is a lifelong skill, how do we hold on to the essence of everything we've discovered here so it doesn't fade away the moment we turn off this video? Closing. The art of letting go. So here we are, at the quiet end of this journey. And if I could wrap everything we've explored into one single thread, it would sound like this. When we see clearly that everything is impermanent and that nothing truly belongs to me, we stop clinging so tightly. With mindfulness and equanimity, we learn to stand steady in the storm. Then, as the heart softens with compassion, the grip begins to loosen on its own, and what's left is freedom. That's the path. Clarity, balance, tenderness, and finally, release. But let me ask you something personal. Right now, in this very moment, what are you holding on to the tightest? Is it an old hurt, a fear of failing, maybe the weight of expectations that never seem to end? What if, just for today, you loosened your grip by 10%, not letting it go entirely, not forcing yourself to drop it, but simply easing the hold? Could you notice the space that appears when the fist unclenches, even just a little? I'll share something from my own life. There was a season when I carried the constant need to get it all right. I thought if I worked harder, planned better, never made mistakes, I could finally rest. But rest never came. What finally freed me wasn't doing more. It was whispering to myself, "It's enough." That's when my shoulders dropped. That's when life started flowing again. Maybe your story is different. Maybe your storm looks nothing like mine. But the truth is universal. We all carry things longer than we need to. And the art of letting go isn't about losing. It's about making space for what's real, what's alive, what's here. So, I want to invite you into this reflection. If there's one thing you're ready to practice loosening just a little, would you write it in the comments? Maybe it's one word. Maybe it's one sentence. By naming it, you begin the release. And your sharing might just give someone else the courage to do the same. And if, as you were listening, someone came to mind, a friend, a loved one, someone who seems to be carrying too much, perhaps you could send this video to them, not as advice, not as pressure, simply as a gift, a reminder that they are not alone. And if you want to continue walking this path together, you're welcome to stay connected here. Each video is like another stepping stone. The next one will be Letting Go of Suffering, Buddhist Practices for Liberation. If that calls to you, Make sure you're here when it arrives. So, we close, but not really. Because letting go is not the end of a journey. It's the rhythm of life itself. Every breath in, every breath out, every holding, every release. And maybe, just maybe, tonight when you rest your head on the pillow, you'll remember, you don't have to carry it all. You can soften, you can trust, you can let go.